Hello and welcome to this commentary track for Space Academy. This is actually a special effects commentary track. My name is Andy Mangles, I'll be your host, and joining me are two of the men who are responsible for bringing Space Academy to the screen, including
Chuck Comisky.
And Lou Scheimer.
And Chuck, what was your job on the show?
I originally was hired to kind of production manage the visual effects and wound up supervising a lot of the shots, including shooting a lot of the shots as well. Which, by the way, what happened to the stars in that opening shot? We spent a lot of money and time trying to get stars for a Saturday Kitty morning show, but I noticed they were in the rest of the shots.
We couldn't get stars. We got these guys. No, that's not it.
There's some stars and explosions.
The explosions. I mean, they were real explosions. We damn near destroyed half of the San Fernando Valley by accident.
We had to create that zero gravity, so we were shooting up at them and blowing the heck out of, I forget, Paul Houston, one of the model makers, put together all the chemicals and everything to make the explosions
And there was another
work.
guy, an effects guy that did explosions and stuff like live action.
For the live action
Yeah.
guy. Yes, what was his name?
Nice guy. He's the one who blew the stuff up.
Now, you said that you were shooting up at them, so what, the explosions were actually above your head? And
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had Plex shields across the tops of the cameras, and the cinematographer wouldn't get hurt, but we had to create a zero gravity explosion, and so we wanted to shoot up at them so that everything would spread out and go around, as opposed to gravity, just coming
Point
up
it
like
down.
a plume and dropping back down. This is the Space Academy model, which I'm still amazed for Saturday morning kiddie television. Of course, it was my first show, so I really didn't have any frame of reference. But the quality that the model shop that they were able to get into the miniatures, and of course, Paul Houston had come off of Star Wars, which had just opened during the time that we were doing this, and I guess a lot of the model makers from Lucas and what eventually became ILM, they were all out of work, and Lou was able to hire Paul.
And John Grews, who was just out of art school. There was Paul Houston, there was John
Grews. There was Yves Zhao Young.
Oh, Yves Zhao Young.
And
who's back down here, from what I understand.
Yes, he is. I think he's over at Disney right now. But these guys all were either ILM or Phil Tippett went on to some really good stuff, and some of them had come right out of Star Wars. Like I say, Rob Main, who was one of the animators on the show, his main claim to fame prior to this was a little soft-core porn film called Flesh Gordon.
And, that's right.
Yeah, remember? And you know who else was on Flesh Gordon was Dennis Murin.
You're kidding.
No, Dennis Murin was doing mat work and stuff like that.
And we let them in the Saturday morning.
Well, none of us knew, except I kind of knew.
so talk about these asteroids and how the effects were achieved.
Well, the effects were achieved when I got hired. I think the major challenge was trying to get a star field back there because we didn't have a lot of money and we had a very tight schedule. And at one point, we were shooting front projected star fields, which looked mushy and kind of like it just didn't look good at all. And so at a certain point, I had our production assistant go out and try and buy up all of the Christmas tree lights in town, which during, I think, June or July, something like that, was no easy feat. And I only wanted the clear ones. We hung them on Dubatine at the back of the stage and strung up all these Christmas tree lights, spray painted them flat black with Krylon paint, and then took razor blades and scraped them off at different densities so that the stars would be big and small and the rest of it.
And you were worried about whether there'd be somebody around here to talk long enough to cover all this.
There was a great close-up shot of the Academy, and there's the Seeker.
Well, again, the quality of the models still amazes me of what we did for the money, and of course, that had to do with the talent of the people that Lou hired.
And that had to do with luck, except for a kid named O'Pearl that we found later on. He was really terrific. Whatever happened to him?
He'll be joining us on one of the later commentary tracks for Jason and Star Command when you buy that set.
Aha!
An interesting thing that Lou reminded me of in terms of the Seeker, the spaceship there, that ship was designed around a converted trash truck that had been used in Arc 2. And if you ever see Arc 2 shows, which people watching this probably will see some of that, you'll notice the front end of the Seeker looks very much like the front end of the Arc 2 vehicle.
Because it is.
Did you use armature work with this, and the black or blue arms, or did you use wires or what?
No, we use exclusively armatures, and we mounted. The models were built so that we could mount them from a variety of different angles. We had side mounts,
bottom mounts, top mounts,
all that stuff, and the way we got the star fields in, this was all in-camera work. There were very few, if any, opticals at the time, and it literally was mounting the different models. Like we're looking at a pretty sophisticated model there for the show. We would mount them, and like when the Seeker moved across the frame, or one of the spaceships or planets moved across the frame, there was a glass that we mounted in front of the camera, and this was Rob Main's technique, and we literally would track the bottom path where the armature hooked into the miniature and tape the glass from that point to the bottom so that you wouldn't see the armature that's holding the model.
I love that shot that we just saw.
That's my shot.
That was a great shot.
I forgot about that one. Did I do that shot?
Yes.
Yeah, of course I did. In any case, anyway, we were talking about matting out the stars, which was the big challenge in the show. And literally, we had a piece of glass in front of the camera, and we taped the path of the Seeker or the model, and ran tape below it so it wouldn't so we wouldn't be photographing the armatures. And then we backed the film up in the camera, reversed the tape, and exposed the bottom where the bottom stars were, and that way we were able to take the supports out for the models. And in some cases, like a couple of those last shots, we had as many as 3 or 4 models going on, and we literally would expose just like a quarter of the film or an eighth of the film to get a specific model in, and then back the film back up and expose it for the next model, and back the film back up and expose it for the next model.
Do you know, I was always afraid to ask you how you did this.
Yeah, that was how we did it. And so that ultimately what we did, we would have all the models in the shot. The big problem with that is if on the 15th pass, if you mess something up, it was start all over again.
But you never
it was
did
all
that.
In camera. Oh, we never messed anything up, absolutely. But again, looking at these again, it's the sets for Saturday morning kiddie television show were for a space show at that time. I mean, forget Saturday morning. You hired some really good people, Lou.
How did I know?
You were talking about repeating the passes and so forth. This is before the modern cameras have computerized systems that were actually designed for the Star Wars movies, as I recall, that help repeat the exact same pass over and over and over again.
Well, we did it with a computer, though. We could repeat the path. Remember, it was...
That was the second show.
The second show. Oh, that's right. Not this
show,
one.
Not this show.
Yeah,
this was all done by hand.
This is all done by hand. And in fact, when there was a fellow named Stan Shanahan who was our engineer.
Oh, my God.
And Stan would hook up these Minitech motors with potentiometers, and our motion control was we would plan how something and rehearse how something would move and get the speed right with the motor control. And then once we rehearsed the shot and it did what it was supposed to do, like for instance this shot swinging into camera view and everything, we wouldn't touch a control. We just put it in reverse, back it up to start the camera going, and 3, 2, 1, go. Turn the camera on, turn the Minirec motors on, turn the model support on if it was on a track. And,
he was a genius.
Oh yeah,
he could build anything.
That was great.
Where did we find him? I forgot all about Stan.
I don't know, but he was retired. Remember, he was retired from aerospace.
Yeah,
and
he could build anything.
Yeah, made all this stuff work.
Now, speaking of building anything, did you, the special effects guys, did you work on some of these props that were light-up props?
Let me differentiate for the moment between special effects and visual effects. The special effects guys exclusively did the props, and they were the guys that blew things up. We call them floor effects, had smoke effects, explosions, lighting, all that sort of stuff on the set, whereas the visual effects guys, which I was part of, we were the guys that did the miniatures and the photography of the miniatures and everything.
What that is.
Now, did we talk about the budget on the series and what kind of money you had to work with on this?
This is per series he's talking about now, too, not per episode.
Should we give them the real figures?
Yeah,
I'm actually pretty proud of it. We had, once the R&D was done, we had a 17-week shoot. There were 16 episodes. We did 256 shots, including the models, the photography, all the stuff, $90,000.
And that
Payroll.
wouldn't pay for one shot in today's world.
Not nowadays.
Although the Dragon Star, which we used later on,
Right.
cost $25,000, just that one model.
Oh, I'm sure. And not only that, what I didn't have access to was what you paid, for instance, to get the Seeker built. I mean, the stuff that we built in-house, that was fine. But there was a guy named Lauren Peterson, and I forget the other guy's name, who a couple of the models were farmed out to, and I did not know what the costs were on those.
I'm supposed to know, but I don't remember.
Where did you guys work out of?
It was a
It was a warehouse.
out in Canoga Park, right off of DeSoto and Varial, I think.
Off in Varial.
Right.
Right across the street from the shampoo place.
So you were in the Filmation offices then?
Well, it wasn't really Filmation
It was
offices.
Filmation West.
Yes, and it was a huge warehouse that they shot the live action with. They had a couple stages, sound stages, and then we had our miniature stage. And then later on in the next show, when Jim Pearl came in and was doing stop motion animation, Lou dedicated a couple offices for that, and they were doing all the stop motion animation like their own separate unit.
You are my prisoners.
Well, given that you were doing this in the same places where they were filming, how much interaction did you have with the crew and the cast?
Casual. We were too busy working. They were too busy doing what they were doing. Jonathan Harris would come through and give everyone lollipops every now and then. And of course, we got to know some of the cast, casually.
Alive presently. Now take me to your ship.
What do you think the most challenging effect that you did on Space Academy was?
It's hard to identify a specific effect. I think the challenge was in creating the concept where we could crank out the amount of footage that we did, not having motion control, having Minirec motors, putting it all together. When I first got hired on, we weren't sure about the star fields. Rob Main, who had been hired as the effects DP, was a stop motion guy. Therefore, everything was done in increments. It was stop motion. And in fact, one of the first things I did was because I got really tired of pushing those carriages through, 6 inches at a time, and basically we put some pulleys and some clothesline, and we started cranking them through and running cameras at it was quarter-second exposures. Everything was stopped down to f/32 for depth of field, and then we would shoot 2 frames a second. So we were pulling the stuff through very slowly. And for people that aren't photographically aware, the f/32 aperture stop was what that does is cut down the amount of light that gets into the camera, and we were exposing for a quarter second so that we could keep things sharp in the foreground and keep things sharp against the far wall, which of course was our star field.
You were worried about somebody talking?
He thinks we're still at war.
I mean, it's amazing because this guy really knows what he's talking about. I would have sat here and lied about how all this was done.
I am lying.
Yeah, but it sounds really good.
You've been in special effects how long now, Chuck?
Well, since then. And that was 1977.
But you actually started out, you did some other work for Filmation.
Oh, I had done some extra casting for Filmation on Arc 2 and ISIS. I worked for a lady named Pearl Campton who actually had the contract, but she was busy doing other things, and I wound up doing casting all the extras and getting them paid on the set and all that sort of thing. And so they called me up at a certain point for this season. A guy by the name of Steve Nicolaitis called me up, and since I was fairly organized, wanted to know if I knew anything about visual effects. And of course, I was dead broke, didn't have the rent that month, and I just lied and said yes, I did, because I figured it would take Lou and company about 4 or 5 weeks before they found out that I was a total sham, and by then I'd have enough money to get through the summer. And as it turned out, I got lucky. Rob Main, the guy who they had hired, knew what he was doing, so I just questioned him and kind of picked his brains and provided my own energy. And pretty soon we were doing the show.
So you're saying basically that if you hadn't have been on Space Academy, you wouldn't have the career you've got right now?
I would not have had a career at all. In fact, Space Academy and Jason of Star Command was really what taught me basic photographic principles and miniatures and that sort of thing. I was explaining to Lou earlier, he hired a gentleman by the name of Eric Van Herenomen who had shot high-speed explosions for Star Wars and had been the camera operator on The Man Who Would Be King, the John Huston movie. And Eric came in and he taught me, anyways, how to do what's called bracketing or wedge different lighting exposures, how to cross light to get beauty shots, composition, and keep a log of what we were shooting so that every shot wasn't brand new again, so that we knew how we got a certain effect in a previous shot and could go right to it.
How much of this, the special effects scenes were stock?
We used those explosions over and over.
Right, but those were the explosions that we generated.
Yeah, we generated them.
But
Well,
other than that,
he meant stock in the way we used to use stock in animation, where we would
Just
do a
reuse.
scene, redo it, and reuse it.
I don't know.
we reused a lot of the shots. Even more importantly, we recreated some of the shots when we had a single setup and changed things like the speed of rotation or the speed of the model movement. Also back then, the camera was stationary because we had this piece of glass in front that we were using for our photographic mats. And so we had the models mounted on a carriage, and then we had speed rail outriggers that we would mount the lights, so that when we moved the models, we moved the lights. It was the whole package, and we needed that depth of field so that as a model got close, it stayed in focus, and we were still holding focus on the star field in the background.
What kind of depth of field are we talking about here? Are we talking you were shooting stuff that was 10 feet away or 4 feet away?
We were shooting stuff in some cases that was probably 12, 18 inches away. And again, having to hold the star field, which was 30, 35 feet away, both of them sharp. Hence, quarter-second exposures, which would give us the time to, for the image to get laid onto the negative heavy enough.
Are there any special challenges behind filming miniatures in this manner to make them appear that they aren't miniatures?
To a large degree, I guess camera angles and the lenses that we used. Camera angles, we tried to shoot up at stuff to make it look larger. I mean, just the basic principles. And the lighting. I mean, take a look at the lighting on that shot. It was pretty sophisticated. And that was what Eric had taught us, Lou was very smart in hiring a couple people. He probably figured, I got a couple of bozos out there. We better get someone in that can teach them what they're doing.
Lou was not smart. I mean, Lou was lucky. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. Thank God you knew what you were doing. I certainly had no idea what he was doing.
Now, in this scene, you're matching a live prop to a model that you made. What kind of challenges did that present?
We patterned our miniature after what they built, and we looked at the lighting when they shot it, and we just did our best to match the lighting, what direction the key light was coming from, and what direction, and how, and the relationship of the fill light, which fills in the shadow areas and everything, proportionately what relationship that was to the key light, which is the bright lights on the foreground and everything. So, we took a look at what they were doing, and then we did our best to match it.
It has to be said in this scene that unlike many space movies, there isn't really a good explanation as to how they're breathing in space.
I don't think we ever cared about minor things like that.
Now you're getting technical.
Next you'll bring up gravity and a lack of gravity in space.
And sound. I think someone said they were wearing like life support bracelets or something.
Yeah, we had that little thing that we...
It's done. We did
Well, a
it.
big part of the challenge too was, it would have been very easy. Not to say that this was a wonderful, groundbreaking thing for TV, although I think to some degree it was for Saturday morning kiddie television. But we just did our best to kind of match things. Try and figure out how to make stuff work, figuring that even though the target audience may be 6 to 12-year-olds or whoever was watching it at the time, that even in the 70s, young kids were getting pretty sophisticated. I mean, they had Star Trek on television, Star Wars had just come out. It presented quite a challenge to, as you mentioned, in terms of selling scale, but also just to make it not look totally hokey. That plus the fact it's on television so it's small to begin with. I mean, it wasn't near the challenge that you do when you're facing the same challenges on a big screen.
Chris, let's try our kind of remote control.
By the way, speaking of the big screen, on television, this looks very good. It's bringing back a lot of fond memories, and I have to ask, where did you find all this stuff? It's 30 years old.
Well, actually, the parent company that licenses this digitally archived all the material so that it would look as good as possible on DVD.
It's looking really good.
Now, Chuck, does it surprise you when so many people remember your special effects work in this series and Jason Star Command with fondness?
You mean all 6 people? Mostly my relatives. It does. I mean, we were just doing a job, and it was a challenge, and it was fun. I have to say, it was a great time during those summers at vacation. It wasn't vacation, but it was summers, and it was kind of like vacation, working at Space Academy.
Commander, what you said about
It was a state of anarchy to some degree. We were not micromanaged. As long as we came up with results that the studio wanted, they pretty much let us alone, and that was great. It was a great amount of freedom that we had to work.
One of the super fans actually kind of worked on the Seeker model.
Oh, yes. That did surprise me. A gentleman by the name of Jim or James Small in Canada actually tracked me down and emailed me and did an online interview about Space Academy and sent me a model of the Seeker that he had built based on the original show.
Oh, Phil Wiley. That Ray Beal. He was the
These are all
director.
your shots right here. We want to thank you both for being here, Lou. And
I don't know why you're thanking me. This man knew what he was doing.
Chuck, thanks very much for being here, sir.
You're more than welcome. It's a pleasure. I hope some people get some enjoyment out of watching these old shows. Show them to their kids.
Oh, we did give Duke credit. Created by Alan Duchovny.
Thank you, guys.